Hey guys, Katie here, and welcome to Know Your Vibes Astrology. So today I want to talk a little bit about a really important upcoming transit we have which is Aquarius, Mercury Retrograde. Mercury Retrograde in and of itself is actually a pretty common transit we experience. So probably now you probably have heard, if either just through like the buzz of Mercury Retrograde, through like magazines, Snapchat, so like the kind of the pop astrology side of things, or maybe you're in astrology a lot more and you've experienced it more in depth and whatnot. So today we're going to unpack what this transit is, what this specific one means, and then I'm gonna talk a little bit about Thriving Mercury Retrograde, a support group I have to kind of help people navigate this time period. But basically, this is kind of a routine transit we have, and I kind of think it's pretty similar into how we take our cars in for regular maintenance. We go visit the doctor for regular checkups. It's kind of like this regular maintenance period that the stars kind of lead us into and offer up for us. But I think that sometimes we are not aware that this maintenance energy needs to be happening, and so we resist it. We don't get that maintenance we need. And when you don't take your car in for oil change, it's going to lead to bigger problems. That's kind of what we see with Mercury retrograde, where people have those kind of symptoms of miscommunication. Their schedules kind of backfire and go wrong, or there's contracts that fall apart, or projects that fall apart, or just different kind of like just things that get into your normal flow of life, like just interruptions and stops and problems and complications with all that energy. That's coming from us not tapping into this maintenance period. So before I talk about that kind of analogy a little bit more, let's go and kind of zoom out and break down the pieces of Mercury retrograde. And so Mercury is a planet that, I think you know that by now, but Mercury is a planet that is in astrology representative of your mind, your communication, everything you can reach within your arm. So your routine, your habits, your work, your community, your neighbors, your neighborhood, and it's self-development. So it's very analytical, it is detailed oriented, it can focus on a lot of little things. So that's what Mercury represents as a whole. And when that energy is moving through the signs, we're experiencing different communication shifts or different perspectives in communication. We're experiencing different mindsets, we're experiencing different ways to structure our life, or we're organizing different parts of who we are. Because of where we're positioned in Earth and where we're observing the planets to kind of create our astrology system, it looks like Mercury moves backwards through the sky sometimes. It's not actually doing that. It's moving in a full orbit, straight forward from the sun's perspective, but from our perspective on Earth, sometimes it looks like it's going backwards. This actually happens about 3 times a year for about 3 weeks, and it will happen in typically the same element. So you'll have 3 Mercury retrogrades in a row that are all in air signs, and then they're all in earth, and then fire, and then water. So like you'll have that kind of systematic approach as it goes through each of the signs. So it's this a few times a year we'll have this maintenance energy. So when the Mercury is going backwards, that symbolizes something. Normally it's moving forwards, we're going direct, we're moving, everything is just, everything about our mind, our routines, our practicality are moving forward. So when it goes retrograde, that stops, that goes backwards. We're actually unzipping and undoing a lot of the things that we just did. And that is an opportunity for something. And so while Mercury is going retrograde, you're being asked to hit pause on moving forward and start reworking things and reviewing what you've already done. But it's not like you have the pressure of still needing to perform at that level of moving forward. During Mercury retrograde, the energy actually gives you the time and the space to do this review process. And so to me, I think this is such a beautiful gift that we get from the cosmos, is these time periods, and all planets except for, the sun and the moon go retrograde. And so we get different periods or different cycles and different, systems for those. But all of these planets give us time to review what we're doing with our energy and to really make sure that we're happy with how it's manifesting in our life. And if not, we can do shifts and we can make changes. And even if we're not consciously unhappy, if we're subconsciously unhappy, that's going to become even more aware to us in this retrograde period to kind of get our attention. So what you'll find is a lot of people will associate the retrogrades with the re word. So reworking, reshifting, reviewing, redoing, reanalyzing, all of that good stuff. And that's really kind of what it is. So Mercury will kind of move forward through the sky, stop, and then go backwards, and then back over it again once it's over its retrograde. And so it's kind of like a zipper unzipping things. And so you do experience this redoing effect, but there's also too, I think, an energy of undoing and unpacking, and emptying the cup before you refill that cup. And so you can do an action, you undo that action, and then you redo the action with more intention, more focus, and more emphasis on what you actually truly want. And I think that is kind of one of the heart of what Mercury Retrograde wants for us, is to put more intention behind what we're doing, to put more thought into how we're moving through things, and to be very considerate of our alignment with our activities and our actions. Mercury is the first planet that kind of is in between the luminaries. So you have the sun and the moon, which are not actually planets. They're the light systems in astrology, and it's your external light, so the sun, and then your internal light, that moon energy. That is the most personal quality you can find in astrology, is your sun and moon, your rising sign as well, I guess, but your sun and your moon, those are when it comes to planets, those are your most personal. Then you have all the other planets, and Mercury's the first one always listed. This is the bridge between the self and the outer world. And that bridge happens in a couple different ways, because Mercury does rule duality, it does have different facets, and it has two signs that it rules. So it rules Gemini and it rules Virgo. So there's two different elements and two different aspects we can see of Mercury retrograde in its manifestation. So you can see like the Gemini qualities, which are communication, because Gemini is a masculine air sign, and air is all about that communication, that expression. It's social, it's intellectual, it's conceptualizing, it's mischievous, it's playful, it's community oriented. And so those are aspects of Mercury that we have. And then we have the Virgo side of things, which is a feminine earth sign. So it's more practical, more logical, more mundane. Even though Virgo is far from boring, it's that routine, that work, that structure, that analysis, that kind of development of ideas, and it's kind of the mechanisms that keep us working and moving in life. So those are the two energies that we're seeing as this bridge between us and other people. Our ability to communicate to others and to express ideas, and our ability to practically move forward and operate and function in life. If your light, doesn't have the ability to share itself with the world, then it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to be as meaningful for you to have that light than if you can express it to others. And so these sides of Mercury are super important, because it's the bridge between us and the world, both in how we want to show up physically, legacy we want to leave behind, what we want to accomplish. If you have a business you want to build, or you have a project you want to do, or a house you want to build, or a family you want to start or tend to, or an education you want to have, or a paper you want to write, all of that energy is that ability to kind of produce with that earth energy of Mercury. And then the communication as well, to express ideas, to form bonds and friendships and connections and curiosities. All of that is Mercury energy. So this retrograde is just a time period for us to rework all of that, and to relook at all of that, and make sure we're in a good flow. And I think it's kind of as simple as that, really and truly. Like, that is what we're here to do for Mercury retrograde, is to rework that energy so that we can have a better connection with what we want to create and what we want to do. And it can get kind of muddled when we get fixated on the surface level, on the like more thorn in your side aspects of Mercury retrograde. So anytime in astrology, when we're not leaning into the higher expressions of these planets, what happens is we'll start noticing the lower expressions manifesting, and I interpret this as a way to kind of nudge us and prod us in the right direction. If we need a tiny nudge, it'll be a tiny nudge. So if, you are someone who really needs reminders to rest, and you're struggling to remember to rest, maybe you get a headache and you take your afternoon off and you rest. That is a tiny nudge. Or maybe you're getting a headache and you keep working through it, and you work through it and you work through it, and then all of a sudden you get hit with the flu and you're out for a week and you can't work because you're in bed, and you just can't even show up in any type of way. That's a bigger message. And so when we don't tend to the energies we need to, or communication example, say you have a conversation you need to have with someone, and it's a tough conversation, if you just try to bulldoze your way through or ignore it, it'll keep coming up, or it will, you know, you won't get the reaction you want out of the person when you talk about what you want to talk about. So you have to kind of rework and get that energy you need to. You might have the very first conversation, so you say something and it comes out wrong, they get offended, and you immediately correct and apologize and take the time to think about what you want to say. Or they say something negative back and you kind of lean into that cycle and keep saying negativity, and then it just kind of gets to be a bigger issue. You have a bigger fight you have to deal with, and that brings your attention to a bigger level. So with Mercury retrograde, when we don't take the time to slow down, pause, and review, give intention to what we're doing, and really think about how we're organizing ourselves, how we're communicating, how we're expressing ourselves, how we're thinking, what our thoughts are. If we don't give ourselves that time and space to do that, then we'll get these things, these thorns on our sides from Mercury retrograde trying to get our attention. Mercury rules your daily life, so that's where you're going to see a lot of issues: communication and your mindset. So maybe you lose your voice, maybe, you know, your phone dies, or the person you're trying to talk to's phone dies, and that forces you to have to think about what you want to say before you say it. Maybe, you know, you get stuck in traffic and you have to really think about, on your way to work, are you happy with your job, with your commute, with your cycles that you kind of move through? Maybe you're working on a project and you lose some of the papers and you have to rethink, what is, you know, the true core, the true message of what I'm trying to do, and how can I realign with that? So there's these different messages we get. So if you're noticing in Mercury retrograde, anytime you're having these issues, it is kind of a call to tend to that bigger energy that I'm talking about with Mercury retrograde, of your intentions, your flow, how are you organized, and is it where you want it to be? This particular Mercury retrograde, so I'm talking about from January 30th, 2021 to February 20th, 2021, Mercury retrograde is going to be retrograde in Aquarius. So wherever Mercury is in a sign, that is going to be the themes, the energetic kind of style that we're dealing with. And so Aquarius is an air sign like Gemini, so one aspect of Mercury, and it's also very pragmatic and intelligent like Virgo energy. So it shares a lot of qualities with Mercury energy, so that there's going to be a beneficial relationship there. But overall, it's a fixed air sign that is connected to where Gemini is your like within arm's reach social energy. Aquarius is society and the collective and social groups, networking. It's this bigger web of human being social interaction. So you really can zoom out with Aquarius energy. It's also to the unexpected. So it rules rebellion, not just for rebellion's sake, but usually it's, you know, to challenge something that we don't think is good. It challenges the status quo. It's innovative, so it's very problem solving oriented. One thing to note with this Mercury retrograde, if you are someone who has had a lot of problems in your life and your body and your mind is in that problem solving mode, and you're in a time period where you're not having problems, give yourself something to do where you're solving miniature safe problems, like doing puzzles or organizing something in your home. Otherwise, you'll create your own problems. That's something that's big with Mercury and Aquarius, especially with this retrograde time period. But it's problem solving. So it's trying to come up with other solutions. It's the water bearer, so it gives water to the people. And that really speaks to, you know, what needs do we have as a society? Where are we not getting these like humanitarian needs met? How can we tend to them? So that's kind of where this Aquarius energy steps into play. We have Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius now for the first time in 12 and like 30 years for both of those. And so that is going to be giving us a lot of expansion in this energy, a lot of lessons. We're building a lot here. So this is actually a really pivotal Mercury retrograde because there's kind of this bigger story we're telling here around this humanitarian energy, this innovation energy, this rebellion energy, this challenging the status quo. But also too, Aquarius is personal energies too. So it's awakening, it's miracles, it's connections to your guides, it's epiphanies, and it's that kind of beautiful energy. It's a very head-oriented energy. So it's very thinking, it's very, not very heart, not very selfish. It's more about other people in that way. And it can be kind of random. And so with Aquarius, and especially with this Mercury retrograde, if you're trying to solve a problem and you can't think of the answer, let it go for a little bit. Take a shower, go for a walk, and see if it comes to mind and jogs something. You'll get that epiphany energy that comes through. Aquarius can shake things up in a way that kind of feels a little scary. So it can be related to like the Tower and Tarot, earthquake energy, lightning bolt. You know, those are kind of symbols of Aquarius energy. And so it can really shake things up. And when that happens, it's going to be for the better ultimately, but it can be hard in the meantime. What is happening is the things that no longer stand are crumbling, and what remains is the structure that's really strong, we can build around. But everything that kind of falls to the wayside in that time period is what no longer serves and is no longer strong enough to kind of keep moving forward. So we have to rework around the energy and find something different. Aquarius as well too will really move you forward in big leaps and bounds. So to me, I kind of see it as this like universal energetic breadcrumb system. So like, Hansel and Gretel, they follow the breadcrumbs. That obviously doesn't work out for them that much, but we can follow breadcrumbs that our guides lead to us, that, the universe leads to us, alignment leads to us, our vortex, law of attraction, whatever it is you believe with, and God leads, whatever. Yeah, we're led. And Aquarius energy kind of shows us where we're led to by these leaps and bounds and moving forward. So Mercury retrograde is going to have us rework all of that energy, rework our communication with society, how we think about challenging the status quo and innovation and solving humanitarian problems, how we think about how we organize society, how we organize our collective energy. Now, keep in mind that this is just a 3-week period. So like that energy, especially where we're at right now as a society, has a lot of work, which we can kind of see through Saturn, who's going to spend 2.5 years in Aquarius, and Jupiter is going to spend about a year in Aquarius. That's a lot of work that's going on here. That's much longer. This right here to me, I think, is going to be more about how do we mentally get ourselves in a place where we can ride that wave and move forward into where we need to go. So really, I think this retrograde is going to be about opening up your mind and challenging, and especially with Aquarius energies, Uranus energies, when they go retrograde, it's more about challenging your personal inner status quo. So I think this is a good time to focus on how do you personally relate to the collective? Are there any wounds there? Are there any fears there? Are there any, things that you've done to wound other people there? Really take a survey of how you're relating to others and shift that energy if you can, if it needs to. How do you communicate with your guides? How do you incorporate the unexpected into your routine? Aquarius really does struggle with the strictness that Virgo can kind of ask for through that Mercury, that side of Mercury. And so how do you mix and match the unexpected into your routine? We've experienced that a lot this year with 2020, and now 2021, we're going to see the same thing, where we're really going to be thrown off our track a little bit. We're going to have to figure out how we're going to respond. How do we find that flexibility to respond to the unexpected? That's going to be something we're going to have to deal with here as well too. And I think how we can approach different problem solving, how we can, look at where we're stuck in our life and how we can find innovation, how we can shift that energy. So that to me is what we're going to kind of experience with this specific Thriving Mercury or Mercury Retrograde in Aquarius. Now I want to take a little time talking about Thriving Mercury Retrograde, which is a support group that I have to help people through these times of Mercury Retrograde. It becomes this really fun community. It can kind of intimate, but not too intimate, so you don't have to worry about it's this beautiful community where we come together and support each other. Through this time, I share insight pretty much daily about what's going on transit-wise, and if there's no transit information, energetically, what am I feeling in the air, different journal prompts or questions to kind of ponder, action steps to take, and kind of work into your life and to kind of play with. This year, too, I'm doing some really cool stuff. I did Thriving Mars Retrograde last year, and it was super fun, and so I'm borrowing some of the things I did with that one, which was a longer period, and bringing it in here. So we're going to have some group discussions on different archetypes of Mercury, or different themes of Mercury, so we can kind of explore them a little bit more in depth. There are some card pools, so you get some insight into what your themes are going to be each week. Then in those group discussions as well too, I'll kind of make it a little bit personal. So I'll tell you how your personal Mercury energy relates to that. And to help you explore your personal stuff even more, we're going to have a Zoom hangout where I have a worksheet of how to kind of go through your birth chart and pull out the Mercury pieces of how is this specific Mercury retrograde going to impact you, what energy is it going to bring up, what are your bigger themes you're going to deal with that kind of extend beyond just what I've talked about here, because it does get deeper. There are more layers than just what I talked about here. So how do you kind of apply that and make it super easy for you? We're going to have a hangout so we can do it all fun, and I'm also sharing with that one, I'm so excited about these, some fun worksheets. So I'm a bullet journaler, and I love to kind of take my ideas and write them down on paper. So these worksheets are those I've created for myself in my bullet journal that I want to share with you guys because I think they'll be very helpful during this time period. So those are something to be really exciting, and I can't wait to share those for you as well. And then this is a place for if you want to share what you're moving through, if you have any questions, if you're in a block and you need to kind of consult the collective and ask for some advice, this is going to be a place for you to kind of do so and to connect there. It is a pay what you want experience. So it's 21 days long. The lowest barrier to entry is $25. So it's a little bit less than $1 a day. Excuse me. I'm getting over a little cold myself. Mercury was giving me a little sneak preview of rest. But yeah, that's the lowest barrier entry is $25. You can pay more if you want to. There's no obligation to, but it is available to you to pay what feels right to you and to tune in to where you are aligned with financially, energetically, all that good stuff. The link will be in the description down below if you want to join there. If you have any questions, please do let me know. Thank you so much for joining me here. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Join us in Thriving Mercury Retrograde. It's going to be so fun, and I will talk to you next week.